Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back here on the RENNSPORT Twitch channel. The first live stream of 2025 actually on this channel, and today we will have a RENNSPORT community event taking place with the brand new addition to the game, the BMW M2 CSR. And I'm not back this year alone because I'm joined by Tim Ireland in the booth.
Welcome everybody, and Happy New Year, Lena.
Thank you.
Not that I haven't talked to you before, but I'm trying to, it's the new year.
We have to connect to each other, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, New Year starting with, I think, one of the better races in terms of what we'll see with on-track actions, because the M2 already has proven to be a very good race car. I mean, a rear-wheel drive, 300 horsepower-ish sports car, I think. That's rarely ever going to fail in that sense, but I'm really much looking forward to this. We chose Spa today, and Spa, of course, I mean, it's the go-to racetrack, I think, in terms of sprint racing. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
It's difficult to go wrong with Spa, isn't it? The M2 CSR has been a really good, like you said, a really good race car. It's slow but not too slow, but it teaches you a bunch of the fundamentals, so it should be good racing multiplied because it's a Spa.
Can't get really much more popular in that sense. We will have a 45-minute race, so your normal RENNSPORT Community League duration. So I think some of our contenders today will be quite used to that. And we are currently in qualifying. Remco Major is the one we are watching. Seems to have a very good second sector. First sector, he's down on someone. But we will take a look at the standing once he crosses the line for the first real-time lap in this segment. So the difference with this car to, for example, the GT4s or GT3s, of course, as well, but GT4s are, I think, the closer comparison in any sense. That on this car you can't really change much. You can only change the traction control to 3 different settings, one of them being off, one is about half and one is full. But you can't mess with the ABS or the brake bias. So it limits the factor the driver can make in terms of the car's setup.
Yeah, it's very much more of a basic race car. You don't have to worry too much about settings and setup when you're driving it, so you can just concentrate on trying to get smooth lines, make sure you get power down on time, coasting through the corners properly, getting it rotated. It teaches you a lot of the fundamentals of driving.
And it also does it step by step, because with the traction control, the variable you can change, you kinda can control how you want the car to behave. If you want to just have a safe ride, you're of course going TC2. It will pretty much protect you from oversteer and stuff, but also limit you. If you then at some point feel comfortable with the car, you can go down to TC1. The car will slide a bit more. It will give you a bit more allowance in terms of freedom to turn through the turn. That makes sense, but basically turning with the throttle, and on TC0 the car just gives all control to you in terms of the throttle pedal and basically lets you drive the way you really want to drive, but it does it step by step. It's not like a hypercar which immediately throws you into hot waters.
Yeah, we do, for obvious reasons, it's the fastest car in the game. You get a lot of people new to sim racing come into RENNSPORT and have a go at the hypercar, and they are very much not ready for it. It's a difficult thing. I'm pretty sure I've seen an interview with one of the real hypercar drivers where they said that they had a 35-page manual just for the steering wheel. So they're complicated. Stick to the M2 CS.
I mean, in the hypercar, you not only have brake bias, ABS, well, you don't have ABS, but other brake options like brake pressure, traction control. You also have, of course, the whole hybrid system, so MGUK deployment, recharge, and all that kind of stuff, which is even too complicated for me at times. But Remco Major seems to be on a very good lap. Is this one valid, though? That would be the question. Currently on pole, Ali Zahir, followed by Eric Häusler, Dominik Lalla, and Joachim Thunder. And Remco Meyer takes pole. Let's see about Ali Zahir. Seems to be on a very good lap as well and closed into 1/10. So it's definitely tight up top. Lots of names we know again, but also a lot of new drivers.
I was chatting with Remco Mayor just before we started casting, and he has implemented a rather unique and very Remco, what would you call it, kind of a balancing system by going for a few drinks.
This
try
sounds
and
normal.
handicap himself.
Sounds very normal. I mean, you shouldn't discount him. If he has a bit of intoxication going, he's not really slower. That's not how he works. Lots of damage here. Damage, of course, being enabled. Front left on Fenton Keating's car. Not really how you want it to look, but he can make up for it in the race by just staying clean.
Getting a good slide there going to the bus stop. Not the fastest line, but it's impressive for the fans.
I mean, of course, with... Oh, and there's even more damage on Noah Hauea's car. Most drivers already finished in this session. And this is qualifying completed. The drivers had 10 minutes to set a lap time. And we have Remco Mayor on top with Ali Zahir in second. Then Ladler, Häusler, Thunder, and Chicot. These four definitely know each other from the last few RCL races. But of course, in the M2, you might race a bit different. And while the drivers are getting ready for the race, we might as well take a quick look at what is coming next week to the schedule. Because the feature race or the RCE next time on will be front-wheel drive cars. Even though not at Daytona, that is a bit wrong. It will be Nürburgring instead, but you can enjoy some multi-class action. We've moved the Hypercar GT3 race to the 7 PM slot based on some feedback we got earlier. And we can hear the cars rolling down the front stretch, getting ready for the green light. And here we go racing at Spa in 2025. Oh, there's a bigger dive from the 3 car, I think it is. Oh, and Ali Zahir lost it on throttle, I think. Indeed. So Remco...
Yannick Leclerc also lost it on throttle. It wasn't involved in that incident.
Yeah, of course, cold tires. But now Julien Chicot, after the dive bomb we've seen into turn 1, which went quite well. Now has to defend from Dominic Ladler. He's going to the outside into Lecombe. Side by side here. Oh, and big drift for Dominic Ladler. And up into second he goes. Joachim Thunder side by side with Fenton Keating. Keeping the momentum up. Momentum is a really big thing in this car, since it is, of course, on the power to weight ratio, a bit heavier compared to the power it has. But some good fighting going on early on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to see that it's been pretty clean. But yeah, like you were saying, yeah, it's definitely a car you want to be coasting through the corner to try and keep the momentum up, try and maximise the amount of cornering traction you've got. Don't want to be too crazy on the brake and accelerator inputs.
Dominic Ladler seems to be on a very good pace, though. Is he gaining on Remco Mayor, actually?
He does seem to have gained a couple of tenths, yeah.
I mean, he started, I think, third. No, he started fourth, I think, behind Häusler. moved up 2 positions. Granted, one was gifted to him by Alizaya, but I think he is on a very good path here to get close to Remco Major so far.
Speaking of Alizaya here, he's just passing some traffic right now. He's working his way back up after his turn 1 oops.
Around the outside of Florian Chantrain and now onto the back of, I think that's Jonas Reiter. I mean, there is some damage to the front left quarter panel and, well, light, which doesn't really matter in this case because it's a day race. But seems to be going just fine, all things considered. Oh, and Eric Häusler. Did Eric Häusler jump the start? He had a drive-through.
Well, he must have done, yeah. I will check the log and see if I can find out for you for sure.
It must have been a jump start.
Drive-through speeding during start procedure. Eric Häusler and Julian Secure both got drive-throughs.
So Julian Secure will drop down from third, but I think he's waiting so he can get possibly further up ahead on track again. Because what Eric Häusler now has a problem. He has cars in front of him, and you can see that right here. Has to get past the same 2 cars Ali Zahir had to get past just half a lap ago.
Ali Zahir seems to have quite a good battle with them for a few corners though. They seem very respectful, so I'm sure Eric Häusler will be looking to get past as quick as he can, but it's always good to have a little fight on track. Ali Zahir up to 7th place right now. So he's working his way slowly but surely up the track, up the field.
Of course, this is demoralizing a bit at the start of a race, but on the other hand, this race is 45 minutes and pretty much open-ended for everyone. And we still have a regular pit stop to come. Because these cars, while they consume less, they still won't be able to make it 45 minutes in one, well, startup tank, basically. These cars also start with 40 liters, if I remember that correctly.
I believe they start with 50, but I'm not sure.
So I think that won't really get them through the whole race.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
But it seems like there's actually no fuel consumption on this one. If I see that correctly. And
yeah, I wasn't sure if it just wasn't showing it on my screen or not because I'm live. I did check the server settings earlier on, and it definitely was turned on in the server.
I think I know the issue. So, apart from that, we now don't have to worry about pit stops, but for some of them, this may be not so bad of news. I mean, definitely gives a bigger chance to the likes of Fenton Keating, who are probably not as familiar with this race format as the likes of Ladler Thunder, as he goes very wide across radio.
Zico just served his drive-through penalty, so he's back in his proper race position now. Just ahead of Eric Häusler. And that guy whose name we're tactfully avoiding saying.
Down the inside of the diver. And good move, but I think Piotr didn't really plan on defending this one.
No, it didn't look like it.
Of course, if you see the guy from top 3 just falling down the order because of a drive-through, you know, maybe this isn't my fight. And he's still on a good path for a good position. He has some good gap to Eric Häusler. But I mean, this is probably why Chico decided to stay out, because he has a close to 10-second lead over Häusler now. Before they went into the pits, it was, I think, 1 or 1.5. But Remco Major and Dominic Lala are taking off from the field right now.
They're both doing a very similar lap time. Remco Major hasn't got a best time on the board yet, which means he has yet to do a valid lap. So he'll be slowly clocking up those incident points. But their lap times are very similar.
Alisaya to the outside of Fenton Keating. Keating good on the brakes still. May say this was a bit wide, but it was a good move to actually defend from Zai here.
Yeah, it was a good kind of blocking line there, wasn't it?
It's really kind of the special thing about bus stop, which makes it more than just an ordinary chicane, with the elevation in each turn. Kind of want to turn in sharply for Mon, but Alisaya around the outside at last source. Could quite see it coming, but still a good move.
Yeah, Fenton took a very defensive line through La Source there, and I think Alisaya just kept the speed up and used his exit speed to his advantage there.
Guess we still have 12 cars running, so seems like there were not much major event we've missed. But I'm positively surprised by Fenton Keating. It's always nice to see some new names, mixing it up with the big dogs we have here in RENNSPORT.
Yeah, we have our regulars, as you'd expect. The names that we all know, and anybody watching probably knows as well. So yeah, it's always good to see some new people turning up and mixing it up with those guys and putting a bit of chaos into the order in the best possible way.
I mean, everyone has been a new name at some point.
That's true.
Of course, Major, Lala, Thunder, those are the names that we've known from pretty much the start of the closed beta. Or very early in closed beta. But even the likes of Alizar here and Julian Chicot, they haven't been here from the start. They at some point have been new to the broadcasted events. And established them pretty much up there, so... But aforementioned Julian Chicot and Fenton Keating just to ride in the bus stop. This will now bring a good opportunity to Julian Chicot to just drag race past on the start-finish straight. Slightly touching the grass there, actually.
Yeah, just making sure he gives Sicko enough room.
But Julian Chicot now up into 5th. Oh, and Keating big off on top of Radeon. And I think he did escape from the race.
Yeah, it looks like it. I hope he comes back for another one because he was doing really well there.
Very unfortunate. I mean, when you see this, you of course know that it's so he doesn't take out anybody else, which is very noble, but very unfortunate to not see him participate in this race any further. But that is very easy to do on top of Radeon. Of course, you know that from GT3s and GT4s, we've raced plenty of cars here on Spa, but the M2 CSR doesn't have even as much downforce as a GT4.
No, it's more kind of on a par with the touring cars, I suppose, just being rear-wheel drive instead of front-wheel drive.
And that is what really gets you, because with the front-wheel drive, yeah, the car's just pointing towards the direction of the front tires as long as you keep your foot down. But with this car, once the rear gets loose, which it does on top of Radeon, we see lots of more cars getting loose there, and we've actually seen it just in front of him with Julian Chicot. Then if you stay on throttle, even with traction control, the car is prone to get around until you catch it early enough. And if you're having an off on top of Radeon, there usually won't be any lucky exits.
No, it's not a good place to be doing that in simulated or real motorsports, for sure. The tires for the CS in the most current update that we have at the minute as well, sorry, the M2 CSR, has quite a more narrow operating window compared to it has done in the past. So, as well as the lower downforce and messing with your TC, keeping the tires in the kind of optimum operating window is very important. And the drop off of grip when you have cold tires is quite noticeable, shall we say.
That's of course one way to put it. Kumail, the first one to lap another driver. It's the 16 car of Noah Huareo. I didn't completely butcher the name, but not easy to pronounce. Of course, the M2 CSR is the car that you will get for free if you sign up to RENNSPORT now. And I think it's really the perfect beginner car in that sense. There's the reason why so many real-life drivers start out in a cup like this. And especially in Germany, the BMW M2 is a very big sport, or a very big racing genre, let's say. Because it's also very affordable. Like, you do have to pay up to 500 euros, I think, if you have a crash. So yeah, insured against crashes, no matter if you cause them or someone else, but you have to pay up to 500 euros. But in terms of motorsport, that is cheap.
Yeah. As much as motorsport can be, it's a cheap way of entering into it. It's also quite popular in North America, I think. It's one of the supporting series for IMSA, I believe, or the SRO in America.
I think for IMSA, yeah. Even though I'm not sure which series uses which car, because there are two different versions of the M2 CS. There's the normal CS, and there's the CSR, which we have, which I think has a bit more power and stuff. So there are, like the 911 GT3 Cup car having an endurance and a normal Cup version, or the Super Cup version.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the differences, I've got to admit. That's intricacies of the M2 that I have not delved into.
I'm very disappointed by that.
I'm very sorry.
Eric Häusler, and I think that's Florian Schantine? No, wait. No, Eric Häusler and the 16 car of Noah Huareo both have pretty much equal damage to the car. I wonder what they have done. I would assume an Rouge crash.
That they are twinsies in the worst possible way in motorsport.
As some might say, it could always be worse.
Oh, it's okay. Noah just had another off at Eau Rouge, so he's different now.
Oh.
He's having some steering problems now.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of damage. I guess you would get the black and orange flag for that.
Yeah, I'm assuming at some point he's going to get a black and orange. He may decide to try and work it around to the pits and get in, but he's very left hand down, I think is the driving expression. He's looking at his driving inputs right now.
Eric Häusler, after losing quite a lot of time to Piotr Zidalbe, is closing in once again for 6th. But yeah, the difference between serving your drive-through immediately and waiting 1 or 2 laps really comes apparent now between Julian Chico and Eric Häusler. Of course, there's a lot of damage to Eric Häusler. And who would have known what would have happened if he waited, but he definitely wouldn't have come out in the traffic he had.
Yeah, that's true. It was a good kind of strategic choice there to wait.
So you can see how much elevation you actually have through the bus stop. And if you hit the curb on the inside, it can actually kick your rear around a bit. So depending on how you drive the car, you might use that. And that's also why you see very different lines through the bus stop with different GT3s. The Porsche and Audi might turn in very late and straighten up as early as possible, basically making it a very Z-form turn, while with the BMW and AMG you might drive more of an S shape.
No matter what car I drive, I never seem to get the bus stop chicane right. So I'm obviously doing something wrong there, which is entirely my fault. Definitely not the car's fault. But it is one of those corners that for some reason I just can't get it right.
For me on Spa, that was or used to be, I think, Puhon.
Okay.
Because it's fairly hard to commit to it in a way, because you have to make one very hard braking maneuver and then turn in at such a high speed. Of course, nowadays I know how to do it, but back then it was really a big struggle for me. And one big struggle I sometimes still have, which is you can get through it, but you can't just get through it fast as Stavelo. I have no idea how to orientate around that turn.
Everyone has their little nickel corners, don't they?
Yeah, indeed.
For anybody who sees me racing online at Spa, try to take me to the bus stop. I'll probably get it wrong.
So we see Noah in the pits and his pit crew very much at work.
Lights have come on before they repaired them. That's impressive.
Oh, Eric Häusler with a big dive bomb, possibly? No, not quite.
You're a little bit early for that just yet, but could be an option in the coming laps.
But Piotr is doing a really, really good job keeping Eric Häusler at bay as well. I think we've seen him before in some events. Might even have been the 2.4-hour Spa we did last year. Or some other big event.
But if it was the 2.4 of Spa, then he's a bit of a Spa specialist, apparently, coming back for this one.
Now in the slipstream. And good move by Eric Häusler to take 6th. There's not really much you can do about it in that situation. That wouldn't put you both in a greater risk, let's say, but it was well decided by Zadabe here. And if you can follow Eric Häusler.
It's one of those fights where you really have to decide whether it's worth it, isn't it? You can maybe get yourself into a fighting position, but it's not always worth pushing it at that point. We have just passed the halfway point of the race right now. Alizar here seems to be catching up with Joachim Thunder pretty good. He's taken about 4 seconds out of him throughout the duration of the race so far. He's got 4 seconds gap to Thunder still, but he seems to be making good progress.
Yeah, it's also worth remembering that Alizar spun in the first turn on his own. Yep. We gotta say how it is, but fighting back to P4 is already a good comeback. Can he make it onto the podium? We shall see.
He has just done his fastest lap of the race, where his lap times have been very consistent, within a couple of tenths of each other.
Yannick Leclerc is also slowly closing in on Florian Chantrain. Oh, and they're also closing in. Well, that is, I think, the lapped car of Noah Huaro, who lets both of them through, but now Yannick right behind Florian going into turn 1. So he might be really well set up here for a move into Lecombe, just as we've seen Eric Häusler do it on the dive. Oh, but in the dirty air goes straight through a Rouge. That is, of course, a big risk by following another car this close.
Yeah, they're not the biggest downforce cars, the M2 CSRs, but of course, being in dirty air still has some effect on you.
Yeah, of course, these cars wouldn't make it flat through a Rouge anyway, but just that tiny bit less grip you have while going through a Rouge, it can really mess you up in terms of what you are used to from the laps before. So you really have to adapt very well, which is, of course, one of the greater skills of a racing driver. But being able to adapt to it means that you can still push the car even though it's not at its max grip level.
It was good intuition to kind of figure out that he did have that kind of reduced amount of grip and bail out and still manage to take a Rouge safely, though. Sometimes it's worth picking up the incident point for cutting the track compared to wrecking.
Which should give you a few more incident points as well. And perhaps end your race. Oh, Alizar with a big drift out of Radeon to get past the number 16. But I think it's nice that Noah still keeps going in this race.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he's definitely keeping it clean with the lappings as well. It's always nice to see.
Yeah, and it's always the best way to pick up experience is just keep doing laps in races. Alizahia has been catching thunder like a train in the last couple of laps. There's only a second between them now.
There's also just half second between Leclerc and Chantrain. Funnily enough, in this case, Alizahia and Yannick Leclerc have pretty similar damaged cars. It could also be, if I remember correctly, that these two actually came together in that turn 1 incident, because Yannick didn't really know where to go with Alizahia just standing sideways on the track.
I think Leclerc did a similar kind of like losing the back end thing and just bumped the inside barrier just like Alizahia did.
Could also be. I mean, there's also damage to the rear, so maybe both.
Maybe a bit of both. We haven't talked about Remco Mile much because he's off in a different postcode, way ahead of everybody else right now. But his lap times have been very, very consistent. His last lap was a 2:34.7, and his best lap is a 2:34.6. So he's keeping within a couple of tenths of his best lap time every time. He's just the kind of consistency machine that we're used to whenever Remco drives on one of our casts.
Keeping it back to the basics. Of course, it was this track where Remco actually went head-to-head with the likes of Yuri Kastop and Moritz Löhner.
That's very true.
And I mean, he kept Yuri Kastop occupied for quite a good amount of time. We gotta give him that as well.
And he will never let us forget the time that he overtook Nico Nunninghoff.
Just like he would never let us forget that he cut off Max Verstappen in a race.
I've never heard that story. I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist.
You gotta like a person like Remco. It's just always entertaining to be in a voice chat with him. Gap between Alizahia and Joachim Thunder, 1 second flat. Gap between Yannick Leclerc and Florian Chantrain, 3/10. Chantrain going wide, Yannick to the inside.
Yeah, they're trying anything and everything to maintain their position and get past respectively right now. Those two are having a really good fight.
Couldn't quite get the run through Rouge this time, but better safe than sorry. Still has nearly 15 minutes to do move. Not to worry about any car behind or in front. Alizahia seems to be very strong through the bus stop. He's always catching the most out of Joachim Thunder.
Noah Horu picking up a drive-through for incident points and unfortunately calling it a day. Well, thanks for turning up, Noah, and for sticking out as long as you did.
Indeed. I mean, the drive-through for incident limits is set at 40. At 45 you will get a black flag. But making it through 30 minutes in one of your earlier races, that's a respectable feat in itself. But Alizar here, he has been on the tail end of Joachim Thunder for quite some time now, but he couldn't really get into range where he can attack.
Yeah, previously to catching Thunder, Alizar here was doing about a second and a half a lap quicker, so he's definitely got the speed advantage. It's just catching it in the right place.
You can also see very different lines taken by both of them.
Of course, from a purely numbers game, Alizar here's got a good opportunity here, because he only has to get the overtake right once, whereas Thunder has to do the correct block every single corner.
It's not easy to be on the defense in that sense, as to say you have to defend every turn, but on the other hand, we've seen it especially from the likes of Ladla and Thunder, that when they are comfortable on the defense, they are a solid wall and they couldn't be bothered with the car behind.
That is very true.
Alizar with the dive, showing himself, but you can see Joachim Thunder just stuck to his line and didn't really... You would expect some drivers to then either dive to the left to give the car more room because they panic a bit and don't want to be involved in a crash, or you would see drivers being way too aggressive and then moving on the right, which would be moving under braking as well, but... Or sometimes even drivers releasing the brake to be ahead in the apex just to miss the corner then, but...
Yeah.
Just how Joachim Thunder does it, keep it to your line, because Alizar in that moment couldn't quite dive in because he was too far away. And also the Tim Schroeder flash with the one headlight remaining on Alizar's car.
He's pretty aggressive through a rouge, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's definitely a different style than Thunder's.
And now on the outside. Oh, but nearly loses the car through Lacombe.
See if he can get back to his original pace, or if Thunder's going to make any kind of counter attack.
Oh, and Shakur has been off in a rouge. Seems to have had a lucky escape here. But yeah, Thunder was very good on pace in that sense. Just the question, can he keep it up with Alizar now in front of him?
They've got a good buffer ahead, both behind and ahead of them, so they can have a bit of a play and a bit of a battle. It's not going to affect their overall race position too much as long as they keep it clean. And they are both very clean drivers.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, they are very different in terms of racing style, and usually we wouldn't quite see that because in GT3s, for instance, Joachim Thunder is driving an Audi R8 GT3 mid-engined, and Alizar is usually in AMG front mid-engined. Completely different cars and how they behave, and I think the AMG can really swallow a lot of the aggressiveness in terms of how it looks while driving, while the Audi is looking extremely aggressive, even if you drive it very calmly. I mean, I know I drive Audi R8 as a main, so... in this car, you really see the difference. You see how smooth the BMW from Joachim Thunder behaves compared to the more erratic movements from Alizar here.
And he's here starting to gap Joachim's under a bit now, though. He's not going to get the assist of the drag down the Kemmel Straight this time round.
You could actually hear the lifts you have to do. Oh, and an interesting situation of Remco Major, because he's coming up to the battle for 8th.
Yeah, Yannick Leclerc had a bit of an off track a few laps ago, and he's been slowly catching back up to Chantrain again. Just kind of nibbling away at the gap. He's about getting to within a second again. But now has to deal with having Remco Major behind him as well.
You can see the blue flags showing up on the light sides on the side of the track. They're on the left hand side now.
Remco wisely deciding not to try and take it there. That's always a dangerous corner to stick it down the inside.
And actually doesn't lose too much time here, because Yannick gave space on the inside, so Remco Major could just stick to his racing line. Oh, and nearly loses the car there. Good catch though.
Yeah, has put him a couple of seconds back from Florian Chantrain again, though. So he's got a couple of laps to see if he can make something happen.
There's 5 more minutes. I presume 3 more laps for those drivers, as they're now lapped by Remco Major. Of course, will let the checkered flag out once he crosses the line after 45 minutes have passed. Oh, and Chantrain with a big off. Was lucky to not lose the rear end on that right-hander. Of course, he rather take the incident points there, but that could have ended very nasty.
He does seem pretty good at his car control. He has had a couple of times losing the back end a bit, but he always manages to catch it.
Just like Yannick Leclerc, just too aggressive into Lecom. Manages to keep it out of the wall, but I think that is his chance for P8 gone.
We have no outstanding penalties right now, so the order as you see it is the order as it will finish. So you don't have to do any kind of mental gymnastics to try and find out where people will finish right now.
I wonder what the tires look like on both Remco Major and Dominic Ladler's cars, because in the early laps we've seen Dominic Ladler just closing in on Remco Major, starting P4, jumping up to P2, and then being as fast as Remco Major was, and then over time just faded a bit. Remco Major got faster, and I mean 25 seconds out of over 40 minutes is still not too bad in that sense, but I still wonder if Dominic Ladler has used up the tires too early, has heated them up too much too fast. It's something that Remco Major definitely knows very well how to do in terms of heat management on different kinds of tires. If that was really the deciding factor behind the pace, or if it just was the consistency Remco Major had from the start of the race.
Yeah, his lap times have been ridiculously consistent, it's got to be said. He dropped maybe a second with having some of the traffic in the last couple of laps, but except for that, he's been pretty metronomic.
Even with traffic, you couldn't really throw him off his delta. Really interesting, let's say. But still, I think a very good debut race for our newest addition to the game. And definitely a worthy card to be given out to every player signing up to RENNSPORT.
Yeah, for sure. It's a car I really enjoy driving. I've been looking forward to it arriving in the public builds from our testing sessions in it. And yeah, I think it's been delivering the kind of racing I was expecting it to, so that's good.
Of course, the two cars ahead of Dominic Lala now are 8th and 9th, so putting a lap on them. The first one will be Yannick Leclerc. But Yannick has gained on Florence and Train once more after his off in Le Combe. Might just be a little bit too little too late, but still, not too bad. Unless, of course, Train does a bigger mistake now. Oh, and big oversteer moment there for Yannick, just as we mentioned.
Mayor's just come through the start-finish straight, so they should be getting the last lap flags, I think, now.
Yeah, pretty much so. Oh, and Dominic Lala way too wide while trying to lap Florence Train, who also went wide. And now Yannick Leclerc, due to this, up into P8. I shouldn't have called it too early, I guess. Maybe it was the overspeed, maybe a bit too late of a braking maneuver, or both.
Yeah, it was one of the kind of rare mistakes made by Dominic Lala there. We're not used to seeing him do that kind of thing. Maybe got a bit tunnel visioned on the car ahead, and with Train going wide, he just followed suit.
Now clear of traffic. We'll have open road to the end of the race.
Train now has a 5-second penalty as well.
That one will be for him. Points. Seven cars still on the lead lap. The last of those being Piotr Reliable.
He's got a very pristine car. He seems to have driven a very clean race.
I mean, everyone in front of him is an established official event driver, so nothing to be ashamed about. But Remco Major, for the final time, into the bus stop. Out of the final turn, the left-hander with a bit of a drift to show off, of course. He will come across the line and win the first RENNSPORT community event in 2025. Congratulations. And P2 will go to Dominic Ladler. Started P4, finished P2. Guess you can call that a success.
It's gaining from your qualifying position. That's always a bonus in my book.
Achso, the drift out of final turn. And completing the podium will be Ali Zahir. Doing pretty much the last to first challenge as well, or last to third challenge as well, with that spin in the opening phase.
Yannick Leclerc and Florian Chantrain locking in their positions in 8th and 9th. Got Joachim Thunder crossing the line now in 4th.
Julian Chico really has gotten some bigger damage in that Rouge off that we didn't quite see. We just noticed the yellow flags. But seems like the car is still very much drivable at least. And he's bringing it home in P5 as well. Oh, but... well, not the most successful show, I gotta say it like that.
He tried.
Eric Häusler in 6th. Both actually with the drive-thru as well for starting procedure. Wonder what could have happened if they hadn't done that. And last across the line, but certainly not last in this race, Piotr Zadajable. A very good performance to come home in P7. So we'll see him back as well.
Oh, so? It's always good to see new faces.
So yeah, that was today's race, and I think that one was a success. BMW M2 definitely proved to be a very race-worthy car, I can say it like that. And we also hope you enjoyed this one. Of course, if you want to enjoy the car, watch the stream, and decided you want to try it for yourself, you can do so because you will get the BMW M2 for free added to your account by signing up. And next week, of course, we will have a new schedule on hand with some changes on it. We've talked about it earlier. And next week we will be back at Spa again for the RENNSPORT Community League Season 4, Episode 4 with GT3s by then. And I'd say I've said everything I wanted to say today, I guess. Do you have anything left on your mind?
No, I was looking forward to seeing some M2 racing, and I was thoroughly satisfied with the M2 racing.
Well, then we wish you a great evening and a great rest of the weekend. And until the next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.